Hello legacy students, today we're going to look at the quadratic formula. What you're going to want to have on you today, pen or pencil, calculator, and then your notebook. So a long time ago, people only knew how to solve using factoring, square roots, or completing the square. And they asked themselves, well, this completing the square process is so repetitive, you do the exact same steps every single time. There's got to be a way to make a formula out of this. So thus, the quadratic formula was born. And it's the most important, probably one of the most important formulas in mathematics. The quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You're going to want to kind of see if you can get that in your head, okay? And make sure it's in there. Basically, it gives us the solutions to any ax squared plus bx plus c problem. It comes from completing a square problem, but with all the steps being shown. Now, this b squared minus 4ac that's right there, that is the discriminant. This tells us about how many solutions you're going to have. If you have a positive number in there, you're going to have two real solutions. If there is if it is 0, you're only going to have one solution, and if it's a negative, you're going to have imaginaries. So basically, it just kind of gives you an idea of how many solutions are you going to have, which becomes more important when we start looking at graphing and whatnot. Let's solve using this formula. So I got my formula right there. So first things first, let's say who's A, who is B, and who is C. Well, A is who's ever in front of the x squared, which is just the 1 right there. B is 2, and C is negative 8. Now I can just plug it into my formula. Well, B is 2, so I'm going to have negative 2 plus or minus the square root. B squared is 2 squared minus 4 times my A, which is 1, times my C, which is negative 8. And then I'm going to divide by 2 times A, which is 1. Notice I didn't do any multiplication. I like to try to make sure I write it down first and then I multiply everything inside. So now I'm at negative 2 plus or minus the square root. Now let's think here. 2 squared is 4, and negative 4 times 1 is negative 4, times a negative 8 is a positive 32. So, and I still have 2 times 1, which is 2. Now let's simplify the inside here. I have negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 32. Well, that's 36. Like that. Well, square root of 36, that's a perfect square, which is 6. So I'm at negative 2 plus or minus 6 square root of 2. Now you can actually solve this problem. So there's two pieces here. There's negative 2 plus 6 divided by 2, and negative 2 minus 6 divided by 2. So let's find out what both of these are. So negative 2 plus 6 is 4, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. So one of my answers is 2. X equals 2. Then I have negative 2 minus 6, that's negative 8. Divide that by 2. Negative 8 divided by 2, well, x equals negative 4 as well. Those are my two answers for my quadratic formula. Now, if you notice, this particular problem also would not have factored. So this is why the quadratic formula is always going to work. Sometimes factoring doesn't, sometimes solve by the square root doesn't. Quadratic formula will always work for you. Let's try another one. I have x squared minus 6x plus 7. So I have my quadratic formula here. Let's designate who's A, who's B, and who is C. So A is 1, B is negative 6, and C is 7. So now I can plug it in. So I got negative B. Well, B is already negative, so it's going to actually be a negative 6. Okay, be careful when that is, when your B is negative, so you don't forget that second negative. So now B squared, that's negative 6 squared, plus, oops, that's supposed to be minus. There we go. Minus 4 times my A, which is 1, times my C, which is 7, all over 2 times my A, which is 1. So negative just gives me a positive 6. So I'm at 6 plus or minus the square root 6 squared is 36. 4 times 1, negative 4 times 1 is negative 4, times 7 is negative 28, divided by 2. So I'll get 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 28, which is 8, all over 2. Well, 8, that can come out, break it down, square root of 4, square root of 2, kind of like we've been doing with our even completing the square and everything. So square root of 4 is just 2. So this is 6 plus or minus 2 square roots of 2 all over 2. That is my answer. But now notice how these numbers right here on the outside of my square root all can simplify down. You are going to want to make sure you check for that. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Now notice I did not divide the 1 in the square root. That cannot happen. It's only the ones on the outside. So this is my final answer to my quadratic formula. Let's try the last problem here. X squared equals negative 2x minus 7. Now notice, not everything's on the same side. You're going to want it on the same side before you designate your A, B, and C. So I'm going to go x squared. Looks like I got to add 2x and add 7, right? So x squared plus 2x plus 7 equals 0. Now I can plug into my formula. So I got A is 1, B is 2, and C is 7. So now I can go negative B, so negative 2 plus or minus the square root, B squared minus 4 times my A times my C, all over 2 times my A. So let's see what we got inside there. Negative 2 plus or minus square root. 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Times 7 is negative 28. All over 2 it looks like. Let's simplify the inside of the square root. 4 minus 28, that's negative 24. Still all over 2. Negative 24. Looks like an I is going to come join the party. Break that down. I have square root of negative 1, square root of 4, and square root of 6, right? Because 4 times 6 is 24. So I know that this is going to simplify down to negative 2 plus or minus. Square root of 4 is 2, and I have an I because that's square root of negative 1. Square root of 6 all over 2. Notice though, we have all 2's on the outside. So I get to simplify this down. Like that. So my final answer, negative 1 plus or minus 1i square roots of 6. And that's the end of this video. See you later, Sabers.